Welcome to the Dialogue Internet Radio Network and another episode of Dialogue Podcast with Abel Rodriguez.
I'm Abel Rodriguez, host of Dialogue Podcast with Abel Rodriguez and part of the Dialogue Internet Radio Network's long list of programming that we have here. But today I'm on, and we know it's a holiday weekend, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about things. And yes, here we are talking on this holiday weekend to a very good friend of mine, George Zavala. He is basically an activist for everything involving issues of disability, correct?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, George?
Man, I tell you what, April's been a while since we've done one of these together. It's like on your podcast, not mine, but man, it's bringing back a lot of fond memories. People that don't know, Abel gave me my start back. How many years ago? Many years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. It's been a while. You know, as a matter of fact, I actually met you first when I was still working at the AM radio station, the talk radio station, and you were brought in actually by Hector Montes, my cohort, who's still around, and that's where I met you, and then things got interesting, and I feel that I felt as a news guy. Okay, you got to understand that I came from news, all right. And I was on the desk, so that meant that I was making decisions about what is and what isn't news, what is important news, what is not so important news, and then what's just fluff, you know. So when I first heard what you were doing and what you were talking about, I felt that you were compelling enough to have your own podcast. And once I was eliminated from the broadcast, over the air broadcast stuff, I immediately said I can't live without the microphone, and got into podcasting and streaming live on this wonderful World Wide Web, and here we are later on in life, So I really appreciate the fact that I motivated you enough to really keep doing it and everything you did, and you went from coming to my studio to making your own studio, and that's usually the way it works. You get so into it that you start buying stuff.
Just to let you know, my wife is mad at you, okay? Just want you to let you know. Because when I first started, Abel, I bought myself, it's called a snowball.
Microphone.
And as I was buying it, the guy turned to my wife. He's like, this is not the last thing you're going to buy. I'm like, oh, yeah. Now, your computer, the lights, microphone, I spent like over $2,000. But the point is that you gave me that flare under my butt to do it. And why I like it live, Abel? People say, record it. But I like it live because it's more spontaneous. Because when you do a record, you just cut out the mistakes and cut out this and cut out that. But when it's live, you get the true emotion. That's why I like doing it live. And thanks to you, I've learned that, doing that live I think it's a better product.
No, I agree with you 100%. It is a better product. The thing is that, then you turn into a programmer, and when do I do it? When will enough people be watching? That kind of deal. And sure enough, there it is, man. There it is, and it's streaming live for anybody that wants to know. It's on Dialogue Podcast with Abel Rodriguez on Facebook, where on that page I have 1.4 thousand. 1,400 people. I can't even. 1,400 people following me. So we got people coming in hopefully and liking it and wanting to listen to what we got to say, because I will say that, man, there are just so many things going on in our community. We're a small community supposedly, but we have a pretty good amount of people who fall under the category of everyday life with some sort of disability, whether it's medical, whether it's physical, any of those things.
And you know what, Abel? Let me interrupt you there real quick, because there's such a misnomer about people's disabilities, like, that'll never happen to me, or, that's ridiculous. And I'll just give you, there's examples over examples, or you could have a disability or a disease, like, let's say diabetes. You could have a stroke, you could be in a car accident, or you could be in a shooting like what happened August the 3rd, or there's just various things that can happen to a person. So that's why I just think that people are not that really engaged with that demographic of people with disabilities, because it'll never really get to me. But And as you know, Abel, having spoken to a lot of people that are older, it happens a lot. Like we spoke about a good friend of ours that has dementia now, and before we never figured that. We never thought, okay, that's going to happen to this particular person, but you never know. You never know what could happen. And to me, it's like, for example, I'll give you another example, just a basic one. It's kind of off topic, but Justin Bieber, he came out that he's partially paralyzed from his face, so technically he's temporarily disabled. But that's what I'm saying. You never know when that demographic, Abel. It's not like you're Republican or Democrat. It's not a chosen. It's just you're put into that category by choice or not.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, and from one day to the next, like you said, your life could change. And then even with me, George, I mean, I have a knee right now that's just not cooperating, and the pain is constant, and some days I can walk on it, and some days I can't, and it hurts, and it has rendered me somewhat disabled.
Yeah. And that's normal. That's a normal process of life. And that's what people need to understand, that when I say people with disabilities, they put you in this box. Like, oh, you're stupid or this or that. But they don't understand it could be a simple knee injury. Matter of fact, when I was a workman comp specialist with the Department of Labor, when someone had a knee surgery or anything like regarding like, or even like a back surgery, for an instance or for a time, they were temporarily disabled. They fell into that category. So when we talk about people with disabilities, I want to make sure that we don't focus on that too much, because that could be anybody really nowadays. Unfortunately, it was COVID. I know people that got COVID now. They have a hard time breathing. They can't really walk that far, or they have brain fog. So just really don't know when it comes to you. It's going to come to you no matter what. You have no choice in it.
And because it happened to you, then you have certain public needs that are going to be different than anybody else because of what you're suffering from, right?
Well, not suffering, but what you've been diagnosed with. And I'm glad you said that, Abel, because you got to understand, it's like what happened in 1919 with the women's right to vote, and 1963 with the civil rights, and then 1990 with the disability, the ADA. All those pieces of legislation were made for what? To make people equal, right? Women,
right? Yes.
People with color, and then now people with disability. And that's why I tell people, it's not with that. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from when they say special needs, but it's one of where the ADA, how can I say this? Not to sound like a jerk, but it's to make us equal. In other words, I tell people, just because I'm blind, I don't want to be treated equal. I want to be treated the same. I want to have the same rights as Abel Rodriguez or my wife, but at the same time, there's rules or even stigma that doesn't allow me to be the full potential that I could be. And that's why I advocate a lot, because it's not only the laws, but it's also the stigma or perception.
Right. And you've served on boards. You have always been looked at as the go-to guy when any kind of issues come up. And there's many different issues. I mean, because of you, I met people with autism. Yep. That deal with kids with autism. I've met with people that we helped at one time. A lady with her child with special needs. Nathan, I believe was his name, and trying to help there, because them alone were having trouble getting things done. And unfortunately, government in its best form is its worst form.
Yes. And the thing about that, Abel, is that a lot of times what happens is that the government tries to dictate what they think is right. For example, they say, when it comes to ADA or civil rights or, the women's rights to vote, which is fine, but to apply that to everyday life, that's where the challenge is. That's where, the advocacy comes in. And my philosophy of being an advocate is always to advocate for anyone. Don't matter who it is. Like I'm blind, but that doesn't matter. You should be able to advocate for those with mobility impediment, hard of hearing, intellectual disabled. That's what a true advocate should be. It shouldn't be, are you this or are you that? And what I mean by that is, are you rich? Are you poor? Are you black? Are you white? Are you gay? Are you straight? that has nothing to do with it. It's just strictly, what's your need? What do you want to do? How do you want to be as an equal in your society? And that's it. That's what we should do.
Well, I got to tell you, today I'm wearing a T-shirt that came actually from the athletic director of the University of Texas at El Paso when he first got here, trying to galvanize people and trying to get things back in order, when it was really tough. And he put out this thing called Difference Maker. Okay, and are we difference makers? I think I am, and I'm pretty sure you are. And the difference makers are the ones that are going to try to get past where everybody gets stuck.
Yes.
And they're the ones that know people. They're the ones that are, like I said, involved in boards. And they're the ones that try to be advocates for those who are trying to make a living or having to go to a doctor's appointment and don't got time to go fight City Hall.
It's like I'm glad you see, Abel. That's what people don't realize. Like you got to this point because not because we're good friends, but people know you. As a matter of fact, when I was trying to do my own stuff, I had someone reach out to Messenger and say, "Is that okay? Will Abel say yes?" I'm like, "Well, of course." I mean, but the point is, you got to where you're at to your life experience. It's like me. Yeah, I'm an advocate. It wasn't overnight thing. I've been doing this for 9 years. Right. Like you say, I've served on committees. I've served on board of directors for Valar, for the Arc of El Paso. So it took me a long time to get where I'm at. It's just not, oh, you could do this, you could do that. Yeah, but it took, as you know, Abel, the craft, even with podcasting like myself, it takes time to, like let's say, for example, pre-production. Then you do the actual show, and then the post-production. Same thing with advocacy. You do the assessment, then you do the advocating, and then you do the assessment afterwards. So, or go to meetings like me and you do to educate ourselves more on the subject. So it's not just a simple just click on this or you're an advocate. It's a life process or life experience, and that's why I'm saying that it's just what I'm trying to say. I guess is you have to be able to participate. I have this thing on Facebook: no participation, no progress. Simple as that. If you don't participate in the process, we're not going to get nowhere. And that comes to every part of life, either advocacy, marriage, political, you name it.
Voting.
You don't participate. Voting. Like you have that voter revolution,
Right,
and
right.
People don't realize, Abel, that so many campaigns have been won with less than 100 votes. For example, the county commissioner or the county judge, I think he won with less than 200 votes.
Correct.
Okay, and that's what people don't realize. That why am I going to vote? And that's why you started me in this process of me talking to candidates regarding people with disabilities, and the reason I did that is to educate them, and number two, plant that seed in those candidates through the years, because we've been doing it. Matter of fact, I remember when you set up you helped me set up that congressional dialogue or
debate
forum that we had.
Yeah,
we had over
350
people show up there.
Yeah, that was one of my best days doing something.
And that's the first. And I'm going to tell you this, Abel. That's the first accessibility forum with a candidate ever done in El Paso. And me and you were part of that. But what I'm saying is, again, no partition, no progress. And that's where people need to step up, especially when it comes to voting or even talking to your elected officials about something that we're going to talk about later about Sun Metro. And that's what people need to realize. Just get up your butt. I know complaining is easy. Anybody could do it, right? I could sit here and complain all day.
I'm pretty good at that.
But but to do something, you need to get off your butt and do it. And I'm talking to the choir with you because I know you've done that. But I'm talking to those who are watching or listening. We need to be more aggressive, or not aggressive, more proactive when it comes to city government. Because right now, Abel, I saw an article that Mr. Max Grossman put up that in the year 2023, El Paso is going to supersede Detroit in paying the highest property tax. Okay, Detroit, Abel. And I don't know if people know this, but Detroit actually filed for bankruptcy a few years ago. So are we going that way? Are we headed there? That's what I'm kind of concerned about.
And who's taking us there? Is it the city? Is it Tommy Gonzalez? Is it the county? The county's getting a little bold and it's thinking, and wanting to maybe put an amphitheater up in Escalante Park.
$302 million.
Yeah, something like that. But the point is this: look, I in my younger age, was a huge user of Escalante Park. Okay, and the problem with Escalante Park was you were trapped there because you went in. There was only one way in and one way out. So even with all the craziness that would happen back in the 70s and 80s, and there was a lot of it, especially on Sunday afternoons.
Oh yeah.
There's really, you put a lot of people in that area. I think they want 5,000 seats for the amphitheater, and how do you get 5,000 cars out of there? You have
it's at the arena. It's at the arena, Abel.
You have a back road that'll go out towards the border highway, mm-hmm. and then you just have the road coming out to Delta, trying to get 5,000 people out of there. Yeah. And what if it's one of those events where alcohol is being served and that kind of stuff?
Well, Abel, like you said about this is what I mean by common sense. Okay, I remember when we had he was a friend of ours, Tillman.
Jerome
Tillman passed away, but he always had this thing. I always loved when he said it. Common sense. If it passes the common sense test, and what I mean by that, just talk about what you said about the traffic. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I think a year before the pandemic, me and my wife have gone to that Christmas thing they have downtown at the plaza, at the park or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
and they also had and at the same time, I think they had a concert. They had another event at the same time with the same area. It took us literally almost an hour to get out of there, just by going little by like a little snail. And that's what I'm saying. This is what I call the common sense test. Is sometimes you wonder, who in the hell on city council or I'm sorry, city hall makes these decisions, or like the county now, right? Like, do they actually think about the whole traffic and the impact? It just like I said, boggles my mind how all this stuff comes to life.
Well, it's just one of those things, man. But the whole point is that we're talking about a time right now where the highest taxes in the state, probably, right?
Yes, sir.
The American dream, if you don't pay your taxes, gets taken away from you because you can't pay your taxes. And, how much more money can you take out of the homeowners, you know what I mean, to be able to fund projects? And
I mean, it's to the point where I know of some people, and then you probably do, Abel, too, they're telling me, you know what, I would rather just sell my house and go to New Mexico. It's cheaper over there. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty bad. And as you know, El Paso has stopped growing, really, at a pace where it was before. And now, now we have the same people or less, and now we're trying to pay our higher taxes. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, so let's get into a little bit about what's going on right now. I do want to preface some things by starting off and saying that the El Paso, Texas, is one of several communities, and when I say several, other communities such as Alliance, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, Barberton, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, El Paso, Texas is in that list. Kansas City, Missouri, Los Angeles, California, for what is called the All America City Award, and this is from the National Civic League and the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, and they are expected to announce the finalists, which we already were announced. Well, at the semifinalists. No, these are the finalists. Excuse me, I'm reading it wrong. That are being recognized for improving the prospects for early school success and equitable learning and recovery, including for children whose families are served by the nation's public housing agencies and affordable housing organizations. Now, think about it. They redid the Blue Flame building, and now it's a housing, downtown urban housing, low economic housing. They as it is, they have the projects down in Second Ward. They also have the projects down over by Bowie off of what is that, Paisano, and those aren't finished yet. There, you just have all kinds of things going on in housing here. So, this year you could see how if they're doing things within that realm, they could be, included in as the 2022 finalists for the housing as a platform to promote early school success and equitable learning recovery. Honorable stuff, it's you go, you get people to go and look for these kinds of awards to see if the community can get them. That's only natural. You want to show off, if you have great programs going on, especially in those categories, and plus you get the All America City Award, and then you can go around telling everybody El Paso, the All America City. So that's fine and all that, and then also we got where'd it go? So
wait, you're looking for that, Abel. Let me just say this too.
Go ahead.
I think the problem with those kind of awards, being a national whatever, the problem is it's from the outside looking in. And what I say by that is you can always skew the numbers and make it look fancy and then make it look pretty. I remember when I was at Kmart back in the day, and we had one of our managers coming in from Michigan, the main people. We would paint up the back of the building, make sure there's no graffiti. We'll wax the floors, and we do this and that. But we just put lipstick on the pit bull basically. But what I'm trying to say is, as you know, Abel, and I know people that live in housing, especially people with disabilities. The state of housing here in El Paso, folks, is bad. It's really, really. So I'm amazed when you said that. I'm like, wow, really? They don't talk to the people here in El Paso. That's for darn sure. But they talk to the city officials. Of course, the city's going to make it look fancy, like they've done for what? The ballparks, the spray parks, all this stuff. And that's the thing is that people need to realize, this is all just bullshit. They need to look at the real stuff. I don't know. Can I cuss here? I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah. We're in the World Wide Web.
But what I'm trying to say is, as from the outside looking in, and that's what people need to realize that, we might win awards for this or that, but does that really mean that we're really all-American city here in El Paso?
And to me, the description of all-American city would mean all Americans who live there are well taken care of in all different types of needs by the city. This one is specific to to kids and housing projects, but you figure if you're going to call yourself an all-American city, it's because all your American citizens that live in that city are pretty happy campers on what they're getting, from their government. And I wanted to also say that we look at leadership, right? And we've talked about him before, but we look at leadership, and this is from June 30th off the City of El Paso, Texas Municipal Government Facebook page. And it goes like this. In case you missed it, earlier this year, the city manager was the first Mexican-American to win the National Malcolm Baldrige Foundation E. David Spong Lifetime Leadership Achievement Award. The award is the highest honor the Baldrige Foundation bestows an individual to recognize the extraordinary services of that person. And Tommy Gonzalez got it. Okay?
It's just amazing.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's just amazing, Abel, that how he could. I'm kind of conflicted because I do, and I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to be transparent. I do from time to time text him, and there's been times that we have one-on-one discussions. So I don't know the guy per se, but
right.
The thing is just amazing that that all this stuff could be given to someone that's putting us in debt. That we don't have really infrastructure. That the streets are are shot. One of our facilities there, and 5 Points, the police department was literally falling apart. The parking center, and it's just amazing that he could be given an award. And not only that, Abel, but the new contract extension to in the 2029. It's just amazing that we could give this guy so much money. I had a shirt. Did you see that thing? I was thinking of doing that shirt. I'll put it on Facebook, and people liked it. I was surprised. I put
raise money for your podcast.
I was thinking of doing it for a shirt, but I don't know. Right. People might get offended. But on the shirt, I'm gonna put the city manager gets a bonus and we get the boner. Yeah. And that people are saying, "Yeah, that's the truth," but it's just sad to say that because there's other cities that are smaller than this but are more progressive, have more services for their citizens. Like for example, Las Cruces. I don't know if you know this, Abel. if you get to a certain age, the bus fare is free. You don't pay nothing.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What age is that?
I think it's 55.
Hey, I can ride the bus for free. Okay, thanks.
Right? But I'm saying that's a smaller city, but yet here in El Paso, we're almost 3 times as big as Las Cruces, and we can't do that. It's just just wonder how that could happen.
Wow, you're right. So give me an overview of how you see the average El Pasoan who deals with their life of having to deal with disability every day. Are they homeowners? Do they pay taxes? Tell me about them, because that's what's going to jump us into our topic.
Well, when I say people with disabilities, that includes everybody that has some type of physical limitation, either be, like I said, mobility impediment, blind, or intellectual or hard of hearing. So that ranges from seniors to people that were born with a disability, like myself, blind, or veterans, or anybody. But the thing is, for me, the city has done some strides under Oscar Leeser's first term. He did a lot. He really did. He pushed the agenda up really hard. This time, not that much. But we're hopefully, restart those conversations back in September, have the quarterly meetings. But one of the things that really impacts people with disabilities, and it makes sense, is transportation. Okay? Matter of fact, Abel, in 2019, I think the University of New Hampshire did a study of the 200 biggest cities or metropolitan areas, and they ranked them within housing, education, transportation, access to healthcare, and employment for people with disabilities. Out of 200, where did El Paso rank? Let me ask you that, Abel.
Top 20 at least.
Nope. We had Del Rio, Lubbock, Odessa, Las Cruces, Laredo, all above us. We were 146.
Oh my God.
And one of the reasons why we want to transition to what I'm about to talk about is Sun Metro's Lyft service, which is a paratransit. So I'm not sure if you want to go into that rabbit hole or not yet.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started about that, because the thing that I'm more interested in is the non-wanting to, or the non-ability to see something that's wrong and still not take care of it. Yep. And I think that's kind of what's going on over there. Bring us up to speed.
So this is, like I said, going back to what I said earlier, the life experience. So my experience with this is going back many years, as I sat on the CAC, the advisory board for the Mass Transit Department. I was a chair, and also for the city's accessibility committee, I was a chair. The chairman. And so I get this knowledge from that. And I kept contacts with, drivers and management from the city and Sun Metro. So what happens is, or what is happening now, and let me say this too. I don't want people to think that we're whining or we just want to be, griping and just crybabies. No. What we're trying to do is, like going back to what I said about the ADA, the civil rights, and women's rights to vote, is be equal, have the same opportunities. So, with that being said, Sun Metro, or the Lyft, which is part of Sun Metro, let me say this too. A lot of people think the Sun Metro is part of the city. In essence, it is, but technically it's not. It's 2 different departments, in essence. Now, Ms. Smythe, which is the director of Sun Metro, she does report to city council or to Tommy Gonzalez. And by the way, as you know, Abel, she's also the director of environmental services, and now she's the director of street and maintenance. Okay, so she's 3 departments, 1 person, and why? It's to save money. Okay, but as the city saves, or Sun Metro saves money, what it does is impacts the passengers. Let me tell you why. So for Sunday service, which wasn't around for almost a year, thanks to Sun Metro. So now for Sunday service is limited for tomorrow or today. Or today's Sunday, right?
Yes.
3-day holiday, so it threw me off. Like for example, today and tomorrow actually. For Sunday and holiday service, the way it works, Abel, is think about this like a map in your head. That's the city of El Paso. And there's certain routes that they're going to use to facilitate their ridership or their service. So how it works is they're going to use the Brio for Alameda, the route, the Brio for Dyer, the one for Mesa, Route 88, which is the one for Sean Haggerty and McCombs, Route 89, which is near the Zaragoza Bridge, and Route 50 for Montana, and Route 53 for Mountwood. So if you live in those areas, 3/4 of a mile from those areas, you could use the service. So what I mean is, so we'll use Dyer, for example. So you live on Dyer, or let's go Mesa, because Sean Haggerty. So let's go on Mesa. So Mesa, as you know, the Brio goes up and down. So in other words, they're telling you, or anybody that wants to use a Lyft service, which is a paratransit, if you want to use a Lyft, that's fine. But you have to live within 3/4 of a mile, either left, right, up, or down from Mesa. Left, right, up, and down from Mesa, for example, okay? So that means if you live with that in those 3/4 of a mile either way, you're good. Pick up or drop off. Now, the problem is, so let's say, Abel, I want to go to your house. So they pick me up. I live near Mesa. I'm good. They pick me up. But to go to your house, you're out of the range. So let's say maybe 2 blocks from your house, that's where the range stops, at 3/4 of a mile. So they're going to tell me, okay, Mr. Zavala, it stops here. We're going to drop you off at the nearest bus station or bus stop or intersection closest to your destination, and you get from there to the spot. So those 2 blocks, I'll have to get from there to your house, and vice versa. Get from your house to that spot, and they'll pick me up. Now, I hope people are seeing the problem right now. I hope you're seeing the little issue there. Okay. So the problem is they're willing to do that. Okay, it does follow FTA standards. However, the problem is you're talking about Lyft people or passengers. Just so you can know, I was also on the appeals board for the Lyft, being part of the chair of the CAC.
Right.
So just to put in context, the Lyft is used to assist those passengers that cannot get to the bus stop. For example, let's say like myself, I'm blind. The nearest bus stop from here, I think, is 3 blocks, but there's barriers for me to get safely there. So that's why I qualify for the Lyft, right? For someone that uses a wheelchair, you know what? That bus stop is not accessible. Which, by the way, there's over 200 bus stops that are not accessible here in El Paso. So they would qualify for the Lyft. Okay. So now going back to my statement. So you're going to drop off that person at that 3/4 marker and say, okay, you're on your way. Laters. So you're willing to drop off someone that's blind or someone that has an intellectual disability, either Down syndrome or autism, or someone in a wheelchair doesn't know, if everything's accessible, by curb cuts.
Right.
They're willing to do that, and they say that's fine. And I'm just amazed that that Sun Metro is willing to put that liability on themselves like that, because that is liability. I know people want to be independent, quote unquote, they're visually impaired or they have a disability, but come on, we have to be realistic to some aspects of life. Because like myself, I consider myself very independent, but in the hell no way, if I don't know the area, I don't know how to get to your house. Abel, how the hell am I going to get 2 blocks to your house?
I think that is horrible, first of all. I think that's what the Lyft's intent was, to pick you up at your door and bring you back to your door.
Yes.
And now the option, because of whatever, is what you just described, and I think it's horrible.
Well, and you know what it is, Abel? Let me interrupt you this. It's not because this or that. You know what it is? Bottom line, to save money. And just to put this more in context to the attitude of Sun Metro management, okay? 3 weeks ago, more or less, we had a meeting. I had a meeting with the mayor, Miss Smythe, which is the director, or I think they're calling now a transportation chief. I think that you changed their title. The UADA coordinator, and the director for community development. And the reason why for community development is now the ADA is under that department. Before it was under Sun Metro. Anywho, so when the discussion came about Sunday service, I asked Miss Smythe. Number one, she did not answer me directly about the 3/4 mile. She didn't say yes or no, and she didn't say, she didn't address my questions directly. As people that deal with the city know this, they'll give you some long answers and not give you the real response. Okay. So when I told her, or asked her, okay, Miss Mites, if you're going to do this, are you going to advise your passengers? And she says, no, I don't have to do that. And I have a witness with me that was part also of the meeting. And she says that twice. She goes, no, I don't have to because it's not required. And I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking in my head, what customer service is that? And what really upset me is the mayor. The mayor was on the call, and he didn't interrupt, saying, Miss Mize, that would be a good way to just reach out to the passengers to let them know, give them heads up. And she said no. And that's what I come to find out about Sun Metro, is that they're detached. Now, that transcends into the city council. They're detached. Okay? Because when I talked to some city council people, I'm not going to say who they were, they didn't have no idea. They had no clue, Abel. They had no clue no concept of what I was talking about. And I'm like, wow, these are city council people? Okay? And there was one particular city council person that did not reach out to. And I'll tell you why. As you know, Abel, when I used to do the No Vision Internet Radio podcast, I had candidates, right? That's what you taught me.
Right.
There's one particular candidate, he reached out to me. Hey, I want to be on your podcast. And we're talking. And then it got to the point where he was like kind of upset with me. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why is he mad at me? I kept thinking to myself, he kept saying, oh, you have this one particular candidate twice. Am I going to be allowed to go on twice? I'm like, yeah. But he was like upset. I'm like, what? Why in the hell is he upset? And then so I told him, Mr. Molinad, you have to understand that we're going to have all different candidates here. Because if we need your help to push an agenda, we're going to ask all the council members for help, for their sponsorship. And you know what he told me? Go, why are you going to reach out to me if you don't live in my district? I'm like, really? Because yeah. I go, well, Mr. Molinad, this is regarding ADA. It's citywide. It's not one district. And so you're telling me that the people with disability only live in one district? I go, no. It's citywide. I go, no. You don't reach out to me. I'm not your city rep. Or I'm not going to be your city rep. And I'm like, and that kind of threw me. And I say that over and over because I want people to understand that this is the mindset of city council. Okay?
Right.
It's just the detachment. And what's happening is impacting not only people with disabilities, the veterans, Abel.
There's a lot of disabled veterans that live in this town.
Yeah, and then what really pisses me off, I was speaking to a veteran, and I'm thinking I want to reach out to the veteran community and kind of team up with them because would really be a force to deal with. But this gentleman that reached out to me, he was upset. He goes, George, and he sent me the link for the city council. And Miss Smythe, again, she said, we cannot provide bus service to Beaumont Hospital unless we're guaranteed 10 passengers an hour. 10. And I'm like, well, shit. The Brio, the regular buses, and the trolleys are empty most of the time.
And aren't they hitting? Doesn't the Brio hit a stop point like every 12 minutes or something like that? That's the way it's called. Like, right? That's the whole idea behind the Brio, right?
To be like an expressway, I guess, to be quick. But the point is, that's where the detachment is. It's because you're willing to have a trolley and willing to have Brio that are half empty, that bring no revenue, but yet you can't provide transportation to a hospital for veterans and their families, of course. But that's what I'm saying. That's the detachment is. Not only Sun Metro, but the city. And that's what, like you were saying, Abel, earlier in the discussion, we need to stop being so passive and start voting, folks. Vote. It's just amazing. There's so many accommodations, Abel. Okay, for example, during early voting, you can vote wherever you want, right? Any location.
Right, absolutely.
So now you have people that say, okay, we know what, I can't go because I have a disability. Well, that's incorrect because they have mail-in voting. I don't know if that's valid now with this new governor, with this governor, sorry. But there's curbside voting. There's voting devices that talk for those who are blind.
Right.
So what I'm saying is there shouldn't be really an excuse not to vote. You know, but yet we'll sit here and complain like the last election for the city manager or for the mayor. How many? What was the percentage? Abel? 12%?
Something like that. Yeah.
When there's over 400,000 registered voters, which is half of El Paso.
Right.
And it's just amazing, Abel, that people just don't go out and vote, but they're so quick to complain about it.
Right, and that's why I think sometimes we get the kind of candidates that we do, because if you have a good enough machine for an election, you have a good chance of winning in this town.
And you were talking about candidates. Okay, so I've been privileged to have candidates on my show, and I'm like, sometimes when they get off, I'm like, holy crap, they're a candidate? I tell my wife, holy snipey. But see, my thing is just to provide the information. I don't really endorse people. I just have them on the show. But with that being said, there are some candidates I have endorsed, like Miss Laura Cruz. She ran for special education,
right?
Board of Education. Miss Sissy Bird. I do those people. I do because I know they have the heart to do it. That's what's missing a lot, the heart. But going back to what I was saying is, remember that one guy we were talking about, Abel? I kind of mentioned to you. He was running for District 4. He was Sean. Forgot his last name. But the level or the caliber of candidates, folks, this man, or young man actually, he was a candidate for District 4, Sean something, I forgot his last name. And it was well documented. He'd been arrested for voucher checks, for fraud.
Yeah, now I remember the guy.
And he
the
had
Northeast guy.
Yeah, and he had like a big following. He had like 1,600 people. I'm like, what? And I'm like, don't they see all this stuff going around? I mean, he was in the news. He was on Facebook. People were always tagging him like, don't trust this guy. He stole from me. But yet he still had all these followers. And it's just amazing at the level of candidates. And we just still have followers. And that's why I'm like, wow. Is that because we have social media and they don't? These people that are following him? Or they just want to ignore it? I don't know. Look at Peter Sportsfine. The level of candidates should equate to some type of management experience or whatever. What I understand, he was a guy that takes pictures, right? I could be wrong.
Right. Yeah, he was a photog, and then he wrote a book and blah blah blah.
So what I'm saying is, the reason I'm saying that I'm pointing him out is because he brought the trolleys. He sponsored that agenda, and even though it was paid through grants, initially the $98,000. I forget, was it 90? I forgot how much it was.
It was a lot.
Yeah, and I was on the CAC when that came to, and that's what I'm saying, folks. When I was on the CAC, they brought the trolleys to us. I wasn't chair yet. So yeah, before that, Mr. Benesiak, which is the former director for Sun Metro, which
I think his name was Banazak. But go ahead.
Jay Benesiak.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, me and him were always butting heads. But anyways,
right.
He would say, "Oh, we're going to bring the Brio or the trolleys. They're going to Philadelphia to get rehabbed and then come back." And I'm like, now I ask him, wait a minute, wait. You keep telling us your ridership is dropping. You keep telling us you're consolidating routes because of no ridership, but you're going to bring trolley. That's going to be an expenditure. Well, Mr. Zavala, you have to understand that we have studies. Okay, studies. These studies, I don't know where the hell they come from. That they did for the arena. The trolleys are going to bring in people and they're going to revive downtown with a hotel or cafes. And I'm like,
you mean bars?
What? And I'm like, I'm looking around this thing. I'm like, is it anybody's taking this bullshit really? And then that's why me and him would always butt heads because I would question him. And people were like, well, tell me, George, why do you always give him a hard time? It's not I'm giving him a hard time. I'm just asking the common sense question. Is how can you have a trolley that can go onto the payroll now and it costs the government millions of dollars a year when it doesn't make sense? It doesn't make sense, Abel. And it's true to fact, right? Years later, no money.
Hey, and we were saying this when it first started too, by the way.
And the same thing with the arena. With the ballpark.
Right.
The same thing with the ballpark. And then just to give you an idea.
You know, and COVID set everything back 2 more years, you know, because, you know, people weren't going to the games and people weren't going to that because of COVID. So now they have an excuse, unfortunately, that's where I'm putting it, to say, hey, we fell behind 2 years because of COVID.
Well, let me tell you this,
and
Abel.
they'll be able to drag this dead animal.
Yeah. And that's what people say always. And as a matter of fact, for the Sun Metro, for this.
I like baseball, by the way. I don't want to make sure people know. I like baseball.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, just to give you an example about COVID. And I know it's real. Okay? People are, oh, this, or, you know, whatever they want to say. Like, I lost a cousin and I lost many friends and my uncle to it.
Right.
But the thing is the city, the Sun Metro management kept saying, because we kept asking, why can't you bring Sunday service? Why can't you have Sunday service for our Lyft service or any service for Sunday? Oh, because of COVID and COVID and COVID and COVID. And one day I asked her, so you're telling me Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, COVID goes away and it comes back on Sunday? Doesn't make sense. The logic doesn't make sense. Okay? And I think that's just an excuse she was using because she wanted to save money. Now, having said that, Abel, people don't know this, but I did my due diligence. And you know this, Abel. I always do my due diligence.
Yep, you do.
I did 3 open record requests, folks. 3 of them. The city, or Sun Metro, not the city. This is separate. Sun Metro, as an entity, received $93 million extra, folks, extra from their allotted budget amount. So in other words, in the past 2 years, they've gotten $93 million, okay? With that money, folks, they can't improve the buses. What I mean by that is either buy smaller buses so they won't use so much manpower, okay? Number 2, they purchased, quote-unquote, 10 vehicles. I don't know why I say quote-unquote. They purchased 10 new paratransit vehicles, 10 of them. Okay, there's 65 of these buses, folks. 65 that transport people with disabilities. Now, I mean, I've seen it, folks. And I felt bad for one particular lady. We would pick her up from dialysis, and on the way home, she's like, oh, I didn't want to throw up. I don't feel good. I'm like, God damn. Every time we pick her up, I'm like, pobrecita. That I felt bad because it was not her choice. Diabetes and dialysis and whatever. Anyway, 65 buses, folks, that transport people like that. Or diabetics, as you know, Abel, being out in the sun, it's not good. Or people with intellectual
I am type 2 diabetes, okay, so I understand.
So what I'm saying is, you have 65 buses. Okay, now 55 with the 10 new ones they bought. But let's go back 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 65 buses, folks. They had an average mileage per bus, 400,000 miles. Okay? When the average industry standard is 150,000. So that's what? 250,000 over. Okay? Now, average year of those buses we have now is between 8 and 10 years. The average industry standard is 5 years. So we're 3 to 5 years over. Okay? And should they purchase 10 of them this year? After 10 years, the last time they purchased it, 10 years, they purchased 10 buses as of this year. And when I asked Miss Smythe, she said, oh, Mr. Zavala, you got to remember, folks, Miss Smythe is very, what's that word, manipulating? I can't say that word, I'm sorry. Say
manipulating.
Thank you. my enunciation sometimes is bad. So she manipulates the numbers a lot, okay? And she's always saying me. She never says we. Me, typical politician. Me. So she said, Mr. Zavala, I'm going to make a difference. We're going to replace the buses in 5 years. Within 5 years. I'm like, 5 years? What? She goes, yeah. Every year we're going to put $8 million aside and purchase 10 buses. I'm like, holy shit. So time out. So you're telling me right now the bus that has 400,000 miles, it still has to last another 5 years? Or let's say another 4 years? Before it gets replaced?
A huevo.
And you're willing to transport people? You got to remember, let me tell you one thing. I'll never forget this. When I was on the CAC, I would get calls from people that I didn't know. And I don't mind the calls, don't get me wrong. But I had a lady call me, a daughter, crying. She's like, my mom, they picked her up from dialysis. the bus broke down. She has to wait for another bus to come pick her up and take her home. She goes, George, she's not feeling good. I don't know what to do. Do I go, well, worst case scenario, call an ambulance because she don't feel good. But what I'm saying, folks, is that's not just a one-day thing. That's an everyday thing. Now, lately, the thing has been the air conditioners, where it leaks onto the passengers, folks.
Okay? Oh, great.
Okay? It leaks on the passengers, okay? Or it doesn't work. Like I had this one gentleman that told me that it was so hot in the bus, they actually got up and told the guy, I'm not going nowhere. If you don't, because when he stands up, the bus has to stop. He goes, I'm not moving, call the supervisor, I'm hot. He had he was already on that bus for 2 hours already, folks. Two hours. It was no air conditioner. Okay? Then listen to what I'm saying. No air conditioner, wasn't working, set the windows down. Now you try to sit in the vehicle for 2 hours in the 100, this is when it was 105, 100, remember those last 2 weeks ago?
Right, like a whole 10, 12 days of over 100-degree weather, and then, it's just really sad.
And then what's happening now is those buses, the 55 that they have left over, and the 10 and then the 55, guess what? Those 55, and I know from the bus drivers telling me, on average, half of them are broken down. So what's happening right now as we speak, Abel, which has always been a problem, but now it's more magnified, I guess you want to say, or more crystallized, is the buses are running late for people to go to school, to go to the doctor. I had this one lady call me, she was late to her doctor's office for an hour. You think the doctor's going to take her in?
Nope.
You're late, you're going to reschedule you.
Nope, exactly.
Or a guy that is employed, and he called me, George, they're taking me to work every day, late. What can happen? The employer can say, you know what, that's your responsibility. You're out of here. But what I mean, folks, is that the city management, city management, because Tony Gonzalez is responsible for Sun Metro, they don't care. And they know about this stuff, because me, Abel, I've sent them emails, text messages, and matter of fact, I sent them one the other day about the buses being late.
Right.
And what we'll look into it.
George, what I'm curious about is, where are these? Are there any Chicano lawyers out there that would love to just get into a class action lawsuit to hurry up the process of getting the replacement units for those? Those other ones are not going to last another 5 years.
Hell no. And what's really frustrating is city council. Okay, so when Miss Smites, when Miss Smites gave her assessment or her summary cause every month they have to do a summary to the city council. It's called the Mass Transit Board, and they give the status of online service, on time service, and passenger ridership. Anyways, and that came up about Sunday service, and Mr. Bautista, who Mr. Abel, Mr. Bautista had called Mrs. Anello's office complaining about the buses running late and about the 3/4 mile. Okay, the 3/4 mile we talked about earlier.
Right.
Okay? Now this idea, Abel, has been going on for like 6 weeks already. The Sunday service started last Sunday. Okay, but I knew about it because the bus drivers were telling me like 6 weeks prior. So for 6 weeks, the 3/4 model was already being worked on because it's something new for the Sun Metro or for the Lyft. Okay.
Right.
However, 2 weeks ago, Abel, City Council barely found out. And the only reason why they found out is because Mr. Bautista called Miss Anello. And nobody on City Council knew it. Like, really? We didn't know that? I'm like, well, why didn't Sun Metro tell you? I wonder why.
Well, you know what? Honestly, there's going to come a point where there's going to be diminishing returns. And at some point, something has got to happen as far as, this lady, what's her name that runs the place?
Miss Mites.
And also who's the one that runs all the budgets for every department? Dun, 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 come on.
Yeah.
So here we are on this All-American holiday weekend, celebrating independence and celebrating being Americans. But unfortunately, there's some of us that can't get the full benefit because of our situation from our government to give us public service that as taxpayers, it's paid for. You know, it hurts me to hear what you say, $91 million 2 years in a row. Where's the money? Where's the money?
Well,
you know,
93 million for the 2 years, but Abel, okay, but check this out. Check this out. When I talked to the FTA regional director, Mr. I want to say Dominichik, he's out of Fort Worth.
Right.
And I asked him before I spoke to Ms. Smythe, can that money be used for operations like purchase vehicles, et cetera, et cetera? He goes, yes. Yeah, that's what the money is meant for, to recover revenue that was lost during COVID. So when I asked Ms. Smythe, check this out, guys. Okay. So real quick, last year they proposed a rate increase for the Sun Metro, for the fixed route and for the Lyft. Okay.
Right.
During those discussions, and by the way, we advocate, we want for them not to implement, but just to let you know how she manipulates the money, the conversation. So that same week, Abel, she told us, a group of us, the city or Sun Metro is in debt. We're in the red, folks. We need money. That's why we need a pay increase. We need money, guys. We haven't had a pay increase in X minute, 10, 15 years. We need money. We're in debt. Okay. Yet, that same week, Abel, she went to Mass Transit Board or City Council. Same week, guys. Same week. And she got a presentation. Oh, we're $21 million in the black now. I'm like, what the? What? She just said that. What? Okay. She just told us that they're in the red, but she told City Council they're $21 million in the black. Does that make sense?
So that's talking out of both corners of your mouth. That's what that is.
Yeah. And then check this out. Hold on. Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this fun part.
Okay.
So, so when we asked her, going back to remember I said 3 weeks ago we had that meeting?
Right.
Okay. So during that meeting, I told her about the disconnect. Okay, I told her about the disconnect. She goes, I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Zavala. She's always, she likes to talk down to you. Like, I know more than you. Who are you? I'm like, all right, cool, all right, whatever. Let me ask you a question. Remember last year when we did you wanted to do the pay increase? Yes.
Right.
Okay. I told her, remember when we made a concession? You did? You compromised with us? She goes, yes. Okay. What was the compromise? Well, we're not going to raise it right now till next year, which is this year, maybe 25 cents or 50 cents, because then we're going to go $2.
Right.
Okay. I go, why did you do that? Well, because we saw it wasn't the correct thing to do. Exactly. I go, Mr. Mayor, did you just hear what she said? She confirmed it. A disconnect. She understood that it was not the right time to do it. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. She just manipulates all these things, folks. And I know so many other stories. I'm not going to put right now, but she just lies.
So how do you forget about just lies? She's allowed to lie. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Anybody else, you already caught her in a lie, and she's not being cut off?
I caught her in 3 different lies that are documented. 3 different lies.
Well, that's unacceptable.
Let me tell you this one, just to put more context into this. So, I think it was 2 years ago. They're gonna sorry, I have allergies, so.
No, don't worry about it.
And the person next door is cutting their yard.
Oh.
So, 2 years ago, they're going to deploy an app. Well, now it's called Sun Metro Ride Sun Metro. You can find it on the App Store. And using that app, you can schedule your Lyft ride or schedule your bus or see the bus route. It's really neat. It's really interactive. But before they deployed it, we asked Miss Smythe, is it accessible for those who are blind? And she's like, well, yeah. You want to test it. And mind you, folks, 4 years ago, during the quarterly meeting with the mayor, I brought up the idea, why doesn't the city have an app? And what I mean by that is to purchase, because see, right now, or before the app came out, Abel, for those who don't know, to use a Lyft is $250. Okay, to use a Lyft is $250. But if, like myself, I'm married, but let's say I was single, and I have a $5 bill, or a $10 bill, or 20, how am I going to get change? I can't just jump in the car and go to the store, right? So I propose that they develop a mobile app, so people with disabilities can pay via the app, either the credit card, debit card, or whatever, right? Even people that mobility that use a wheelchair, they're going to go down the block to 7 to get a $4 and change. Well, anyway, 4 years ago. Okay. Now, 2 years. Now going back now 6 years, actually 6 years ago, I'm sorry, 6 years ago. So 2 years ago, I'm the one who brought up the idea, right?
Right.
Okay. And I'm not saying me. Just hold on. Let me tell you why. So during those conversations, I asked Ms. Smythe, are these apps, now they're going to implement them. Okay, great. Are they going to be accessible? She says, yes. You want to test it? I go, yes. Of course. Why wouldn't I? Hello, I've been in the conversations from the beginning, the conception. Of course I want to test it. And she's like, okay, give us 2 weeks. And we're going to send you a link, and you can test it out. Great. A month passes by. So I reach out to the city manager, or to Mr. Leeser, and he reaches out to her and says, we have another meeting. Or, I'm sorry, no. By emails, my bad. By emails. So I'm like, Miss Smythe, what happened? You said 2 weeks. It's a month now, going on almost a month and a half. And you know what she did, Abel? You know what she did, folks?
What?
She sent Mr. Oscar Leeser an email saying, in the original discussions, Mr. Zavala said that he did not want to participate in the testing. That's why we didn't send him a link. And I'm like, what? But she was not supposed to have copied me. I guess she did a reply all, and it copied me. And I'm like, what the? So when I called someone in the city, it was in Sun Metro, I go, what the hell was that email about? He goes, George, you weren't supposed to see that email. I go, wait a minute, she just said I didn't want to participate. He goes, yeah. I go, what the hell is that about? He goes, you know why she says that? I go, why? Because I haven't done it yet. She's lying to cover it up. I'm like, wow. That's what I mean, folks. That's how she is.
She doesn't deserve the position if she's going to do that, especially to an advocate like you, and stringing you along.
Well, it's not me, Abel. Let me tell you this thing, and I'm glad you said that. Because people, not only you have said that. It's not me. It's people, everybody, the average user. The average user, Abel, is getting screwed by this lady. And it's not fair. And it was really annoying, annoying. As the city manager continues, like I said, they think that she's the white, what do you call it? The white dime, the white knight saving, whatever they call it. I forgot the saying. The knight to save the day.
Shining armor.
Yeah.
The knight in shining armor.
There. That's what they think she is. But she don't know. They don't know all the, like the city council didn't know about the 3/4 mile until we told them, not the person that was supposed to tell them. And you know why, folks? Because she knew that when she said that, they're going to start asking questions. What do you mean 3/4 mile? Does that mean you're going to leave someone there at 3/4 mile? What do you mean? That's why she didn't disclose it, folks. She's stupid either.
That's retarded. Hey, listen, we've been on for an hour, so let's go ahead with some closing arguments, and then we'll bring you back on to see where it's at. I think I'd like to know what the service record of the whole fleet is, and see how many are breaking down during the day. Are a bunch of them breaking down every day? I'd like to see that. It sounds like you need to do a records request on that one.
Yes. It's well, like I said, and I've heard this from the Lyft management, which is a contractor. It's half every day. So maybe an average of 25 to 30 vehicles that are down every month, every day.
Every day. That is unacceptable, Tommy. Mm-hmm. Come on. Oh, well, what do they pay taxes? I bet you that's the first thing he asks. Well, do they pay taxes? Do they own homes? Do they, it's all about taxes, man. But those taxes are the same monies that fuel giving them services.
Well, no, but money is money. Green is green. Yeah, people with disabilities, even veterans. As you know, we own our own home. Me and my wife. I am fully employed. I'm not. People say that people with disabilities just live off the system. I don't. I actually don't receive Social Security because I want to be independent and live without having to report to anyone, how much I make every day or every month. So I'm employed, and we do pay taxes, high taxes, by the way. But the point is that at the end of the day, Abel, is it fair to pay all these taxes and for my fellow brother and sister not be able to use a Lyft? And not only that, Abel, and I know the people like this, and you probably do too, you, Abel, and those who are watching. I know people that have fixed income, especially the elderly. and people with disabilities. For example, Social Security, the max you could get is $770. The max. Okay? So you're going to tell me that person is able to afford their home, either renting, because even if you rent, you're still paying the taxes, to be honest with you. So if you're paying your home, your mortgage, your rent, whatever, and have to pay for medicine, so what do you think people do? I'm not going to buy my medicine. I'd rather have a roof over my home, but yet their health declines. And it's just a vicious cycle. People don't realize that human impact that these high taxes are having, and then with the inflation, manos.
Yeah, I hear you, George. We're talking with George Zavala, who is a advocate for everything that dealing with disability. And I want to thank you for being on the show today, George. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And I just
one thing I'd like to tell you, Abel, before you go, I didn't want to say this on the air. Sometimes you don't get credit for what you do, but you did the last 2 games for the minors. Sorry, I knew it was going to ring. That's why I turned around.
Don't worry about it.
That I knew when you did the last 2 games you did for the minors. I think they were playing
in Frisco, Texas.
Frisco. You did a good job, Abel, because this is a person that tells you that was blind, and I'd rather listen to a game on the radio than on TV because the radio is more descriptive.
Yes, correct.
You did a good job, man. You did a good job with those 2 games.
Hey, thanks
man.
a lot. I appreciate it. I'm really blessed that I'm still doing what I like to do, and just trying to make ends meet. I'm in the same boat. As far as trying to find revenue for what I do and sponsorships and things like that. So
I like that one you have that. The matter of fact, you put it up yesterday. The Sumbo one.
The Sun. Yeah, Tony the Tiger Sumbo with Eddie Morelos.
I'm glad you're still doing that one.
Yeah. I got some good stuff going. So and some interesting things coming in the future. I want to thank you for coming on today.
Well, let me say one thing before I go. Can I plug my stuff?
Yes, hurry up.
Real fast. So I started my new podcast. I changed it from No Vision Internet Radio. That's gone. That's in the ground now. So
right.
I'm doing a new one called Let's Talk Stuff. Actually the Facebook page is Let's Talk Stuff podcast. And what I'm going to do is is kind of incorporate everyday discussion and kind of sprinkle it with accessibility. Because I don't want to focus too much on accessibility. And what I mean by that is I want to show the everyday Joe that people with disabilities can talk about different stuff. It doesn't have to always be, oh, look at me. We're, like you said, we're homeowners. We're
business owners.
Yeah. And then the accessibility corner, I'm not sure what's going on with that because I was doing it with Dr. Juarez, but I'm thinking that he has other projects, so I might put that on the shelf for right now.
Right.
But anyways, the Let's Talk Stuff podcast is my new project.
Okay, so we'll be following you, and I'll try to share that stuff on my Facebook page. I just want to say that when you want to get a designation, that brings pride and honor to your community, and in this case, the All-American city, then you got to be fair to all the Americans that live in that city. Yeah. And I'll just leave it at that. Hey, thanks a lot, George, for being on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Remember, this is the Dialogue Internet Radio Network. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Dialogue Podcast with Abel Rodriguez. Remember to like us on Facebook at Dialogue Podcast with Abel Rodriguez. Or you can email us at Abel, A-B-E-L, at dialogueep.com. And remember to catch all of our podcasters on dialogueep.com.